January 23, 1943. Eglin Field Proving Ground, Florida. The thermometer showed 14 degrees Fahrenheit, extraordinarily frigid for the Florida Panhandle. Samuel Green observed a weapon experiencing its 17th catastrophic failure in just 2 hours. America's principal aircraft armament, the Browning M2 50 caliber machine gun, lay inoperative and frozen on its testing platform. Vapor drifted upward from the barrel, a cruel reminder of how the weapon faltered in freezing temperatures. Major Robert Johnson from the Army Air Force's Armament Laboratory slammed his clipboard down onto the icy sand, exasperated. "Green, this situation is untenable. Currently, 423 B-17s operate in England, each equipped with 13 of these weapons. That totals 5,499 guns that will cease functioning the instant they reach altitudes exceeding 20,000 feet. Our 8th Air Force achieves a 3.1 kill ratio against German aircraft when the weapons function properly. When they malfunction, our bombers become defenseless prey." Samuel Green, a 52-year-old civilian toolmaker from Connecticut without high school completion, military experience, or weapons design credentials, studied the jammed machine gun with a mixture of disappointment and intrigue. Army Ordnance specialists had pronounced the challenge insurmountable. Engineers from Browning Company had exhausted conventional approaches, yet the weapon remained frozen while American airmen perished over Germany with inoperable guns. Green retrieved a small notebook from his tool bag and documented a single observation that would transform automatic weapons engineering globally. "The problem is not the gun. The problem is, we are trying to make the gun work like we think it should work, instead of letting the gun tell us how it wants to work." Major Johnson regarded the civilian toolmaker, whose words seemed cryptic. "Green, your statement defies logic. The gun operates as an engineered mechanism governed by physical laws. We possess test data, engineering specifications, and mathematical models." Green extracted a well-worn machinist's file from his bag. "Respectfully, Major, your mathematical models did not create this weapon. John Browning designed it through intuition. I am a toolmaker. I understand intuition. Grant me 1 week and authorization to alter this weapon in ways that will disturb your engineers, and I will ensure it never jams again, under any circumstances." Neither man realized this moment would initiate the most contentious modification in United States military weapons history. Within 3 months, Green's unconventional solution would convert the 50 caliber Browning from an unreliable weapon into the most dependable machine gun ever manufactured. Within 6 months, his alterations would preserve thousands of American airmen's lives. The principles of automatic weapons design were about to be rewritten by a civilian toolmaker armed with a file and unwavering determination. John Moses Browning's final masterpiece was the Browning M2 50 caliber machine gun. Conceived in 1918, it had proliferated throughout American military operations. By 1942, every heavy bomber carried multiple .50s. Fighter planes employed them as principal weapons. Ground vehicles and naval vessels mounted them extensively. The United States military had adopted the 50 caliber as its standard heavy machine gun. Combat operations exposed a devastating flaw. Above 20,000 feet, where temperatures plummeted below -30 Fahrenheit, the weapons malfunctioned with alarming regularity. Statistics from November and December 1942 painted a grim picture. Out of 213 B-17 missions, crews documented weapons failures on 161 missions, a 76% failure rate. Aircraft averaged 4.7 jammed guns out of 13 total weapons. The casualties mounted immediately. German fighter pilots swiftly identified this vulnerability, concentrating attacks on bombers with disabled armament. December 1942 alone saw 14 B-17s destroyed after losing all defensive weapons to malfunctions. This represented 140 airmen dead or captured simply because their guns jammed. The Army Ordnance Department launched intensive investigations. Engineers pinpointed several contributing elements. Lubricants congealed in extreme cold, metal contraction tightened tolerances, and moisture condensed and froze within mechanisms. From October 1942 through January 1943, conventional solutions underwent extensive trials. Cold-resistant lubricants, refined ammunition tolerances, heating components, expanded clearances. Nothing succeeded. The .50 caliber malfunction rate persisted above 60%. $2 million produced negligible improvement. Samuel Green stumbled into this crisis almost by chance. He served as a master toolmaker at Pratt & Whitney in Hartford, Connecticut, specializing in precision gauge fabrication. For 37 years, he worked 6-day weeks crafting tools others used for engine construction. When Pratt & Whitney secured a contract to produce M2 machine guns, their test weapons exhibited identical cold weather jamming. The plant manager, desperate for answers, announced a $1,000 bonus for anyone solving the problem. He declared that every engineer examining this weapon confirmed the design was flawless. Therefore, the issue must originate externally. Browning's design could not be modified. It was already perfect. Green found this perspective disturbing. Throughout 37 years, he had discovered no design was perfect. Every mechanism possessed peculiarities revealed only through operation. Mathematical perfection and functional reliability were distinct concepts. That evening, Green inspected a failed prototype weapon. He disassembled it entirely, measuring every component. Everything fell within tolerance. Everything matched specifications precisely. Yet the weapon had failed. During slow reassembly, sensing how each part integrated, he detected something unusual. The bolt carrier fit extremely precisely within its channel. However, when Green manually pushed it, he perceived slight resistance at particular points. He scrutinized the channel more thoroughly. The surfaces were impeccably machined, yet the channel exhibited a barely detectable bend, less than 20,000ths of an inch across 12 inches, well within acceptable tolerances. Green suspected this minuscule deviation created binding. In warm conditions, it proved insignificant. In cold conditions, with thickened lubricant sufficient to trigger failure. That night in his basement workshop, Green initiated an experiment that would appall Army engineers. Using a precision file, he removed material from the bolt carrier, decreasing its width by 30,000ths of an inch. This expanded clearance beyond specified tolerances. By engineering standards, he had damaged the weapon. By Green's assessment, he had provided the bolt carrier adequate room to cycle smoothly despite minor imperfections. The following morning at the test facility, the modified weapon underwent refrigeration at -30 Fahrenheit for 4 hours, then test firing. It operated flawlessly. 100 rounds, 200 rounds, 500 rounds, 0 jams. The range officer was astonished, then alarmed. "You altered a military weapon without authorization. You changed dimensions beyond specified tolerances." Green replied calmly. "The specifications produce a weapon that jams. My modification produces a weapon that functions. Which matters more?" Within hours, Green confronted the plant manager and Army Ordnance Liaison Captain Robert Mitchell. Captain Mitchell was incensed about unauthorized modifications potentially endangering service members, but the plant manager contended they should confirm whether the modification actually functions before rejecting it. Mitchell consented to forward the weapon to Eglin Field for thorough evaluation. The weapon reached Eglin Field on January 18th. Major Johnson was dubious but desperate. On January 23rd, in 14-degree temperatures, he mounted Green's modified weapon for cold weather assessment. The outcomes were remarkable: 2,000 rounds without a single malfunction. Subjected to -50 Fahrenheit for 12 hours in a cold chamber, it fired instantly with no jams. Intentionally contaminated with sand and dirt, it continued operating, demonstrating flawless function under conditions where standard weapons consistently failed. Johnson immediately summoned Green to Eglin Field to describe his modification. On January 26th, Green arrived with his tools and an outlook that would conflict dramatically with military engineering culture. The meeting assembled Green, Johnson, 3 Ordnance Department engineers from Aberdeen Proving Ground, and 2 Browning Arms representatives. The atmosphere was tense. Major Johnson opened with facts. Mr. Green's modified weapon has exhibited 100% reliability under conditions where standard weapons fail 60 to 70% of the time. Mr. Green, please describe precisely what you accomplished. Green sketched a simple diagram illustrating the bolt carrier and channel. I reduced the bolt carrier by 0.03 of an inch. This provides clearance for movement even when the channel isn't perfectly straight, and cold causes everything to contract. Standard tolerance presumes a perfect channel, but channels aren't perfect. Greater clearance permits the bolt to traverse smoothly despite imperfections. An Aberdeen engineer holding a doctorate protested immediately. Mr. Green, your description is mechanically unsound. The specified clearances are calculated to guarantee optimal cycling. Expanding clearance compromises all parameters. Your modification contradicts fundamental principles of automatic weapons design. Green listened patiently, then responded in a manner that stunned everyone. Sir, I don't comprehend your mathematics, but I comprehend machines. I've worked with machines for 37 years. Your calculations indicate my modification shouldn't function, yet it does function. Perhaps your calculations are incorrect. The room erupted. The dispute continued until Major Johnson intervened. This debate is pointless. We face a crisis killing American airmen. Mr. Green has delivered a solution. Our task is determining implementation feasibility across all M2 weapons. I'm ordering comprehensive testing. If you're finding this story as compelling as I am presenting it, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Stories about the civilians who transformed warfare are what this channel is all about. Don't miss the next one. Comprehensive testing commenced February 1st. 20 M2 weapons from 3 manufacturers received Green's personal modifications. Each underwent rigorous evaluation: standard firing, cold chamber testing at -50 Fahrenheit, sustained fire of 5,000 rounds, deliberate fouling, and high-altitude chamber testing simulating 30,000 feet. Results proved consistent across all 20 weapons. Cold condition malfunction rate 0.8%. Standard unmodified weapons 68%. Green's modification reduced cold weather malfunctions by 99%. Implementing this across military inventory presented enormous obstacles. By February 1943, approximately 96,000 M2 weapons operated in service, with another 60,000 in production. The Ordnance Department estimated 18 months and $12 million to modify all existing weapons. Generals Leslie McNair and Henry Arnold both advocated immediate implementation, but the Ordnance Department demanded additional testing. The bureaucratic standoff resolved when Lieutenant General William Coonan, Director of War Production, personally visited Eglin Field. After observing modified weapons firing flawlessly, Coonan posed Green 2 simple questions. Can trained armorers perform this modification quickly on weapons already deployed? And can production lines integrate this without slowing production? Green confirmed both. Approximately 45 minutes per weapon. Production lines simply machined to different dimensions. No new equipment required. Kühnen decided immediately for complete implementation across all services. All existing weapons would receive modification during routine maintenance. All production lines would implement new specifications immediately. The modification received designation Modification 743, but became known as Green's Fix. Implementation demonstrated American industrial capacity at its zenith. Within 1 week, detailed instructions reached every armory. Within 2 weeks, production lines integrated new specifications. Within 1 month, mobile modification teams operated at air bases throughout the United States and England. Within 3 months, over 40,000 weapons were modified. Within 6 months, all 96,000 existing weapons incorporated Green's modification. Combat impact was immediate. March 1943, pre-modification. 8th Air Force bombers reported weapons malfunctions on 57% of missions. April, with 30% modified, malfunction rates dropped to 38%. By June, with nearly complete modification, malfunction rates stabilized under 4%. Green's modification reduced weapons failures by 94%. More significantly, bomber losses attributable to disabled armament plummeted. First quarter, 1943, 14 B-17s confirmed lost after total weapons failure. Second quarter, post-modification, only 2 lost. The modification directly preserved bomber crews. German Luftwaffe pilots observed the transformation. Intelligence reports from captured pilots revealed they recognized American bombers' defensive fire had grown more dependable. One June report noted American gunners maintained consistent fire throughout engagements. The previous pattern of weapons failures had vanished. Attacking American bombers became considerably more hazardous. Ground forces experienced comparable improvements. Tank commanders reported vehicle-mounted 50s operated reliably. Infantry heavy weapons platoons discovered their 50s demanded less maintenance. The Pacific Theater witnessed improvements in high humidity and saltwater environments. Navy vessels reported fewer jams during anti-aircraft engagements, critical against kamikaze attacks. One particularly striking example occurred November 2, 1943. Captain Robert Johnson of the 56th Fighter Group, piloting a modified P-47, absorbed cannon fire. His aircraft sustained 21 cannon strikes and over 100 machine gun impacts. His guns continued firing throughout. Army engineers later determined that without Green's modification ensuring weapon reliability, Johnson probably would have perished. Instead, he survived to become one of America's leading aces with 27 victories. The technical legacy transcended the M2. The principle of operational tolerance influenced all subsequent automatic weapons design. Post-war weapons, including the M60 machine gun and M16 rifle, incorporated clearances optimized for reliability rather than theoretical perfection. Green's insight became foundational to American weapons development. Samuel Green received the Medal for Merit in April 1943, presented by General Arnold. The citation stated, "For extraordinary achievement in weapons development, specifically for creating a modification to the Browning M2 machine gun that dramatically enhanced reliability and saved numerous American lives in combat." Yet Green remained uncomfortable with recognition. He attended the ceremony because Arnold personally requested it. He accepted the medal with brief gratitude, declined interviews, and returned to Hartford and his position at Pratt & Whitney. Colleagues reported Green displayed the medal once, then stored it in his desk drawer where it remained until his 1951 retirement. Green received hundreds of letters from servicemen whose lives were preserved by reliable weapons. He retained every letter in a wooden box in his basement. Staff Sergeant Michael Chen, a waist gunner on a B-17, wrote in July 1943, "Mr. Green, our plane encountered 6 German fighters last week. All 13 guns fired perfectly. We destroyed 2 fighters and damaged 3 more. Before your modification, at least half our guns would have jammed. We would likely be dead now. Because of you, we returned home. Thank you for providing us guns we can trust." Before we reach the incredible conclusion, I need to ask you something important. If you're enjoying this deep dive into history, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps us keep bringing these stories to you. Post-war military analysis revealed the Ordnance Department had invested over $2 million in 5 months pursuing conventional solutions that failed. Green achieved success in 1 week with simple tools. A 1946 War Department study determined this delay cost an estimated 64 bomber aircraft and 640 airmen, plus uncounted ground casualties. The study recommended military development incorporate mechanisms for evaluating unconventional solutions from non-traditional sources. Green worked at Pratt & Whitney until retiring in 1956. During those 13 post-war years, he resolved dozens of manufacturing challenges and mentored younger toolmakers. He rarely mentioned his Medal for Merit. When questioned, he typically answered, "I repaired a gun that wasn't functioning correctly. That was my job. Repairing things is what toolmakers do." Green passed away in 1971 at age 80. His obituary was concise, noting his career and Medal for Merit. It didn't mention his modification had been incorporated into over 500,000 M2 machine guns. It didn't note his operational tolerance principle influenced every American automatic weapon designed subsequently. Green would have preferred it that way. The M2 50 caliber machine gun remains in frontline service today. As of 2024, the weapon serves with United States forces and over 100 allied nations. Modern M2s still incorporate clearances derived from Green's original modification. The weapon has been in continuous production since 1921, the longest-serving machine gun in American military history. Its legendary reliability traces directly to Green's work. Total M2 production exceeds 3 million weapons. Approximately 2.1 million incorporated Green's modification. Everyone benefited from the insight of a civilian toolmaker who understood that machines speak to those who listen. From World War II through Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and continuing today, American service members have depended on 50 caliber weapons that function because Samuel Green filed a bolt carrier in his basement workshop. The modification technique became standard training for military armorers. The procedure Green developed is taught at every United States military armorer school. The emphasis on functional testing over dimensional measurement that Green championed became doctrine across military maintenance operations. The broader lesson concerns institutional openness to unconventional solutions. The Army initially resisted because it originated from an uncredentialed civilian who violated specifications. Only senior leadership intervention overcame this resistance. General Koonin wrote in his memoir that the military must establish processes for identifying innovations regardless of source. Intelligent ideas emerge from unexpected places. Our responsibility is recognizing them, not filtering them by credential. In 1988, the Smithsonian inaugurated an exhibit on civilian contributions to World War II military technology. Samuel Green featured prominently with displays including his original tools, notebook, and the first modified bolt carrier. His Medal for Merit, donated by his family, was displayed alongside letters from servicemen. The exhibit attracted over 3 million visitors, bringing Green's achievement deserved recognition 17 years after his death. Modern military weapons development incorporates formal mechanisms inspired partly by Green's example. DARPA actively solicits unconventional ideas from non-traditional sources. The Army Research Laboratory operates programs encouraging civilian engineers to address military challenges. The Ordnance School teaches Green's modification as an example of successful innovation from unexpected sources. The weapons community remembers Green through informal traditions. Instructors reference Green's rule when teaching modifications: measure twice, file once, test thoroughly. The annual Green Award recognizes individuals who achieve significant improvements through simple practical solutions. The final assessment must acknowledge both the magnitude of Green's achievement and the circumstances making it necessary. He resolved a critical problem killing American servicemen. His solution was elegant, practical, and immediately implementable. Yet his solution was necessary only because institutional processes had failed. Rigid adherence to specifications, dismissal of unconventional approaches, and bias against non-credentialed innovators prevented solving the crisis through normal channels. Today, whenever a .50 caliber machine gun fires reliably in Arctic cold, desert heat, or jungle humidity, that reliability traces to Samuel Green's modification. When Special Forces operators depend on their weapons in extreme conditions, they rely on principles Green established. The civilian toolmaker who never completed high school transformed the most ubiquitous heavy machine gun in military history. Samuel Green passed away quietly, lived modestly, and achieved immortality by improving one gun's function. His story demonstrates that the most significant innovations often emerge from unexpected sources, that practical wisdom can surpass theoretical knowledge, and that solving problems matters more than following rules. The mathematics were always straightforward. Standard M2 weapons experienced a 68% malfunction rate in cold conditions. Green-modified weapons experienced a 0.8% malfunction rate. The difference: thousands of service members who returned home because their guns functioned, thousands of families who remained whole, and thousands of lives preserved by a civilian toolmaker with a file and the conviction that functioning was superior to perfection. The weapon displayed in the Smithsonian, serial number 4327891, is a Green-modified M2 that served with the 8th Air Force. It fired over 80,000 rounds in combat without a single jam. The placard describes its combat record but doesn't mention the Connecticut toolmaker who made that record possible. Yet armorers remember. Veterans remember. Anyone who depended on a .50 caliber machine gun that functioned carries Samuel Green's legacy forward. The civilian who made America's .50 cal never jam taught lessons transcending weapons development. Sometimes the optimal solution contradicts conventional wisdom. Sometimes expertise exists without credentials. Sometimes repairing what's broken matters more than defending what's supposedly perfect. Samuel Green's impossible trick made the impossible possible. He made the most utilized heavy machine gun in history reliable under any condition. He preserved thousands of lives. He requested nothing except permission to repair what was broken. That is the authentic story of how one civilian toolmaker, working with a file and conviction, made America's .50 caliber machine gun never jam again, and in doing so, he became one of the unsung heroes who won World War II.